Thanks for stopping in today. We're going to talk about kayak fishing. In particular, we're going to talk about the Alabama rig and kayak fishing. The Alabama rig intimidates a lot of kayak fishermen because usually we sit down to fish. It's a heavy rig, can be hard to throw, and it can wear you out really fast. That is why I'm posting this video, to show you guys that it is possible, and it's especially possible if you know a few tricks and have the proper technique and the proper equipment. And I also want to give people some information on the Alabama rig and ways to rig it up, especially to help kayak guys. First off, the rig that I use is a 7'9" St. Croix Mojo Bass swim bait rod. You don't have to go out and pick up a $130, $200, $300 rod to fish this. This is just what I use, works for me. Anything, and 7'9" is big for a kayak guy. To me, 7 feet is perfect. You can use a 7 foot extra heavy, fast action tip rod, and you're going to be just fine. You're not chucking this with your wrist. You're not roll casting it. This is a whole upper body motion to get this bait out there, and you want to have a stiff rod to do it because they can weigh 3, 4, 5 ounces. So you want to have something that's going to take care of that. The reel I use is a 6.4 to 1 ratio, and it's a Bass Pro qualifier. It's one of the places that you want to spend your money if you're going to rig something up or use the Alabama rigs. You want a good reel. You need the good gears. You need the good bearings. That's it. You will tear up a inexpensive $40 or $50 reel throwing this heavy thing due to the resistance and the constant winding and things that it takes. So you don't want an inexpensive reel. I mean, you don't have to go out and spend $300 on a reel, but something at least mid price point to get it to last. As for line, a lot of people vary. The recommended line is 80 to 100 pound braid. If you go to the Alabama rig website, that's way too much. I've never seen any need for that. I use 65 pound Power Pro. I've never had a problem. It'll straighten out a hook just as good as 100 pound, and I can have more of it on my reel. A couple of tricks that I use is one of the first things I do before I take these out is I replace the snap. I replace the snap. The ones that come on it are 50 pounds, 60 pounds. I replace it with about a 30 pound snap, 30 pound rated snap. That's because if it gets something that gets hooked into too deep to where even if I can straighten the hook, it won't come loose, I can eventually straighten that snap and just lose that one bait instead of the whole rig. Losing one of these $30 rigs will ruin your day. Another thing that you want to take into account is a light wire versus a heavy wire hook. I want to be able to straighten mine out. I'm not fishing for money. This isn't my livelihood. So I want to be able to get my rig back, and I'm not rich. So I want to be able to get this rig back. So I use a light wire hook so that I usually straighten this out before I lose the rig, and I can just bend it back no problem. I recommend carrying something like an old broom handle, cut off broom handle, or an old a hammer handle, something like that, because you're going to want something to be able to wrap around and pull to be able to straighten those hooks out, because you're not going to be able to do it with your hands. Braid will cut you severely. I'll put 4 smaller jig heads, lighter in weight, say 1/8 ounce is my normal, on the outsides, and then 3.5 inch swim baits. In the center, I'll put a 1/4 ounce and say a 5 inch swim bait. I think that just to the fish looks like there's a trailing bait fish. It's easier to pick off, gives them a little bit different look, and it seems to work. Some people say that you could put the heavier jig heads on the bottom. I haven't seen where that does any better. And to me, the heavier one in the middle, it casts better for me. As for baits, I like to use your standard paddle tails. I don't go off on crazy colors. I keep it, natural color like a watermelon seed or white. White can't beat white. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be white. Some other things you can put on there, though, the fish may not have seen, is a curly tail grub. A lot of people fish them with paddle tails. This gives the fish something different to look at. You get a lot more tail action at a slower speed, and that day that might be what turns them on. You might be able to go behind a guy in a bass boat tossing paddle tails on an Alabama rig. You toss some of these, and boom, he's on it. Now, as for these grubs, they came from Kayak Sticks Custom Baits and Rods. Mark's a really nice guy. Look him up. He's definitely somebody that can help you out as well. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to check this out. If you ever have any questions, you can find me at southernblueridgekayakanglers.com or sbrka.boards.net. My name's Damien, and tight lines. Check out that Alabama rig.